Hi, everyone. Good afternoon for a start. My name is Sean Tang, and I'm your MC for today's event. It's exciting to see so many of you. Thanks for taking time to join us for this session of Harness Your Value Out of Your Data using Azure Cloud Analytics platform. I believe we'll all have a good sharing session. Really looking forward to it. Now, just before we start, for everyone's interest, we have muted this session. But if you have any question, we have enabled the chat session. You can just type it in there and we'll be happy to respond. At the end of this session, we have a Q&A. Look forward to take up your questions accordingly. And just a reminder that this session is recorded. And at the end of everything, we'll look forward to your filling in feedback form to tell us how else we can improve. And coming back to today's session, as we know more than ever, organizations are looking for easier ways to ensure business resilience in these uncertain times. Organizations are also accelerating cloud adoption to save costs, rapidly adjust to changing business demands, and enhance security. So cloud infrastructure can help you scale instantaneously and deliver efficiency with unified security and management capabilities as well. And for this afternoon, we have three distinguished guests to share and help kick things off. For starter, in a little short moment, we'll have Roy, who is the Group Director from Icon. He will start with giving us an introduction to Icon in the Icon overview. And then this will be followed by Poonam, who is the Cloud Solution Architect from Microsoft. You'll deliver the keynote for today's session. And when done, we will have Chatya, who is pre-sales consultant from Tech Data. She will do a demo of the solution. So if you're all good, let me pass over immediately to our first speaker of the day. It's Roy from Icon Group. Roy, kindly take over.
Thank you, Sean. I will cover the Hi, everybody. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Roy.
Okay, great. Okay. Okay, first and foremost, thank you, everybody. Really thank you. Good afternoon for joining us today, taking some time out from your busy schedule. So I thought this is a very good opportunity for me to come and show you approximately 70 slides about Icon, what we do, what we don't do. But when I saw the speaker after me, I'm very excited, and I know they are going to add tremendous value to all of us, the way we work, the way things are happening, how we can get best value out of our data. So I've reduced from 70 to 10 slides. So not to worry, give me some time. I'll quickly introduce Icon, what we do, who are our customer, how great we are. Okay, we'll talk about that, and then pass it to Poonam. So if you look at, we started in Singapore. We are a Singapore SME, to be very honest, a boutique Singapore company around 20 years back. And after 4 or 5 years, we started our operation in India. What is interesting for you to look at is we have 300 plus customers across Singapore, Southeast Asia, India, Middle East, some in Americas and some in Europe. We have done 1,000 plus successful projects. So that is very important, okay? The successful and 1,000, those are the two very critical numbers. And 250 employees, and I think 70% of them are basically consultants, senior consultant, architect, who are delivering project after project for our customers. There are some awards and accolades. Our partners really loves us, and they always give us a lot of awards. In 2020, during COVID time also, we got a very decent award from ThoughtSpot. Okay. But we can say very good things about us. We are salespeople. Okay, we will say we are great, we can do everything. But what matters is what our customers are talking about us. And the customer starts from CEO of DBS Bank, telling, I'm pleased to say that Icon has been a great partner, helping us to implement and execute our strategy. This strategy is on their enterprise BI. So we are working with this bank for the last around 7 years and helping them to implement their entire enterprise BI strategy. We have Chief CIO from Max Healthcare. We have IT Director from Adidas. We have our Paul from Crescendas. We have implemented data analytics for them. We have Maritas Hotels and Resorts, our own, and we have SASL. SASL is basically a joint venture between Singapore Airlines and Rolls-Royce. They actually manage all the trend engine which are being used for 380 Airbus. Okay, I think all of you are aware of that. So this what matters, customers. If customer is happy, we are paranoid about our customer satisfaction, customer success, and as long as customer, and I'm doing it for last 20 years in Icon, helping my customers to be successful with their data, convert their data into information, and get the best value out of their data. And this kind of slides really makes me motivated to work harder, engage you much closer, and try to solve your data-related problem as early as possible. These are our overall enterprise customers. Okay, so if you look at one side, we have DBS Bank, we have now Bank of Singapore also, we are working very closely. We have large bank like Maybank, Kimeng, Johnson & Johnson, 3M. Another side, we have SME or large SME customer like Crayon, Luma, Jambo Group. We are working with them and helping them to execute their data strategy. But we are not stopping only with enterprise. We are also working very closely with Government of Singapore. So the reason this is a separate slide, if you look at working successfully with Government of Singapore, having around 30 active ministries and agencies with whom we are working, shows that we are definitely delivering quality solutions to our customers. Because Government of Singapore is very clear, they need, it's all based on meritocracy. You deliver best quality solution, and then only you'll have a place to work with Government of Singapore. So we are doing so, and you can see best of the names. One side we have Monetary Authority of Singapore, we have Ministry of Home Affairs, we have Science Center Board, we have Crown Jewel Prime Minister's Office. 3-4 divisions under the PMO we are working very closely with. Okay. As I mentioned, we are a boutique company, so we are not a typical SI who can do anything and everything in IT. We focus on very specific areas, but we bring tremendous value to you on those 2 areas. We can compete with anybody, and we can actually give you better value compared to any large SIs or large IT companies whom you're more familiar with. Okay, so what are the 2 areas? One is business analytics. And if you look at, we are primarily data people, we only work with data. So on business analytics, we do business intelligence, which is basically visualization, primarily dashboard, analytics, reports. You are looking at what has happened. So we are implementing that since 2003, long before business analytics become a hot word in the industry. So around 17 years of experience doing so. Then some of our customer who has matured on BI, they now want to move it to the next stage, which is advanced analytics. So we help them to do data science, typically predictive models, forecasting. We help them to do that. And on top of all, if you look at, finally, all this can be done only if your data is well managed and available to you at one single location. So that is where the information management comes into place, where we help our customer to do the complete data engineering, bringing data from wherever they have, do the data ingestion, convert, put the necessary governance on that data so that you have the nice, clean data to work with. Either create a data warehouse or a data lake or a data store where your data will be sitting, and then applying ML, AI, or any other algorithm on top of that to get your analytics so that you can make informed decisions. So this is one pillar of ours. The second pillar is enterprise performance management. Initially, when we started this around 10 years back, it was more focused to the Office of Finance. But today, if you look at, because of the way market is changing and the flexibility and nimbleness required on your planning process to change your plan constantly with changing market environment, now FP&A automation become a XP&A automation. So the financial planning and analytics is now extended planning and analytics. Okay, so we don't not only automate the FP&A part, we actually help outside FP&A, SNOP, demand planning, procurement planning, all that we help our customer to do. So the entire enterprise planning. Second is legal statutory consolidation. Large company, multiple entities, a lot of intercompany transactions, minority interest calculation. We will automate that complete process, and you will close your books every quarter, every month on the 4th day of the next month. Okay, it's all automated. And I think all of us has experience. The last week of the month and the first week of the month, the finance team is extremely busy because they are closing. What are they closing? They are closing their books. They are ensuring all the transactions has happened effectively. Those are being captured, and they are reconciling those transactions. What money I have received in bank, how many invoices I have received, invoice I have issued, are they connecting effectively? So we actually help our customer to automate the entire closing process, and they can gain anywhere between 60 to 65% efficiency on that. So the finance team having so much of headache and always worried that we are missing something will be completely removed, and this entire process can be automated very, very effectively. Any question you have on this, please feel free to type in. We will ready to take those questions. Okay. So if you look at, we work with few technology provider. We are very proud to be with Microsoft, and we are getting tremendous support from them. Really, really happy to be there. And the kind of platform now Microsoft is offering on for data is amazing. I think very few people have something like that to offer to the customers. So you can start very small and can grow as big as possible you want. Not only on the size, on the scalability, on the data volume, on the performance. These are all just now by few clicks, and your performance can go up tremendously without having that headache that, okay, I have a server with 4 CPU, how am I going to get the performance? Or 10 CPU, how am I going to get my performance? Data is growing, and Microsoft came with that entire Azure platform where that can be handled very, very effectively. Typically value-oriented engagement model, what we are doing. So we sit with our customer, try to understand what they're trying to achieve, where they are, what they're trying to achieve. So the entire discovery process. And based on that, we try to tell them, okay, this will be the best platform for you to adapt. And these are the phases how you should go. Phase 0, phase 1.1, phase 2, phase 3. Not to do a big bang, go through a phases, do your ensure your investment and risk being managed, and get the best value of that. Once all these being defined, we actually help them to deliver the project, do the consulting, do the implementation, and then we do the value assessment. The value assessment part is we, at the beginning of the project, we have decided this is where we want to reach. Have we reached there? If we reach there, it's absolutely fine. If we have not, what went wrong? Can we rectify that on the phase 2? Can we rectify that on the phase 3? So that's what we do. One more thing, what we do as a philosophy of ICON, we enable our customer to an extent where they should be able to manage whatever implementation we are doing anywhere between 80% plus. So that dependency on ICON or on the technology vendor can be reduced tremendously. So our customer manages most of their application by themselves. We are always available there to support whenever they need. Support as an extra pair of hands, or support as an advisory service, or support as an education service. We are there to provide you all that. Icon differentiator. There are quite a number of things written here. I will just try to highlight a couple of points which I feel personally is the most important. If you look at what is ICON to you as a customer, is our consultant, their capability, and how well they are delivering the projects. So I think there are, although we are a small boutique company, we have done significant investment on our knowledge management, learning management, and L&D process. Okay. On the knowledge management, we have captured all the project which we have done, 1,000+ project. We have captured as much as possible, considering the NDA constraint available there, so that when our consultant is going into a new project, they can always share their previous experience, what went wrong, what went right, what are the do's, what are the don'ts. That's one. Second is we believe on a continuous improvement environment. So based on that, we have done significant investment on automating the entire learning management and learning and development process. So we are, although like considering I have seen what's going on in the industry, we actually evaluate our consultant every quarter. We evaluate them on a soft skill, on the core skill, and also on the nice to have skill, all the three place, and constantly offer them what are the new training they should attend. And all those trainings are part of our, most of those trainings, not all, most of those trainings are part of our LMS system, so that it can be tracked what training they are doing, where they're getting stuck, what more support we can provide them. Because finally, those consultants will go and meet you and they will deliver the project to you. So that's what matters most. Customer success comes from consultants who are knowledgeable, who understand what they are going to do, not going and asking you, tell me what you want, but sitting with you and discussing with you that this is the best practices and this is how the project should be implemented and delivered. This is my last but one slide. So if you look at on, as I was mentioning, on business analytics portfolio, we do the entire business discovery. And what we offer to our customer is we understand, looking at your overall landscape, that what should be the best BI tool you should use. Okay. Then we do the entire roadmap, like what should be the phases, how should go about it. Do the entire architecture design, not only for the current project, also keeping in mind for next 5 to 7 years. Deployment. In case you are telling, okay, we are too busy to run our core business is doing fantastic, I don't have time to manage these applications, help me to manage. We have complete managed services offering. We can manage your entire BI landscape, entire data landscape effectively with stringent SLA, so that you do your business without worrying about how your data being managed. You get your information whenever you need. There are some specific solutions which we have created. Some of them are functional specific, some of them are vertical specific, like manufacturing, banking and insurance, pharma, F&B, public sector. We have created some. Some are for functional, which are finance, supply chains, sales and distribution, HR. We have done tremendous amount of planning and analytics work on Singapore HR. So we can actually give you out of the box planning solution with all the Singapore rules, and the way Singapore HR works are already being defined. Similarly, for if you look at in the data space, what we offer is the entire data engineering piece. That means getting data from various places, how to get it best, and at what frequency, how to bring that data and keep it somewhere. Some of the data you need on a real-time basis, we do data ingestion, and then we put that data into a cloud platform. That is what in today's, somebody is coming and telling me I want to create a data warehouse or a data store or a data lake, it should be on cloud, because you have tremendous flexibility when you're going to cloud. So we create a data lake, data warehouse, data store, depending on the business need of the customer, provide a governance layer on top of that. Typically looking at from where the data is coming, how it is coming, who can touch that data, what they can do with that data, the complete data lineage, data glossary being provided. And then managed services. How will you, like, data is there, all the visualization is there, but it has to be up and running and available to you 24/7. So that when you need that information, wherever you need that information, you should be able to get that. And on the services part, a lot of technology consulting we do, application development services, implementation services, and so on and so forth. So that is where I end my presentation. That's my last slide. As I told you, I'll be quick, and I will pass it back to Poonam to take over from here. Poonam, I think you are on mute.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Good afternoon, all of you. I hope all of you are doing well. Thanks a lot, Roy, for that. Let me quickly show you what Azure has in terms of data platform and take you through how easy it is to think about data on Azure. Just give me a second. Let me just share. Yeah, so till the presentation is coming up, let me introduce myself a little. So my name is Poonam Sampath, and I'm a cloud solution architect. I focus on data and AI, and so I typically work with partners to enable them on Azure on the data and AI piece, and I also help with partners to create a capability and execute data and AI projects. So that's what I do at Microsoft. Before I start, I just want to know if you're able to see my slide well. Okay, I think I take that as a yes. So
Yes.
in terms of what am I going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about what is the value proposition, why cloud, why Azure, and I'm going to give you an overview of the Azure data landscape, what's possible. How can you get started? And then we can keep it up for question and answers. In the middle, if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat window and I can take it from there. Right, so let's get started. So these are some numbers, and these are some Gartner numbers that have been published. And it says that by 2023, the analytics market is going to be pegged around $66 billion. Now, these are very impressive numbers, but what I really see in the last 1.5 years, especially during COVID, is that organizations who've been able to embrace data, who've been able to be agile with the data, who've been able to embrace analytics, have been able to grow and create a niche for all of them, right? So, I think of numbers apart, we've seen that happening during COVID. So data and analytics is critical for the growth of any business these days. So having said that, I will take you through what's possible on Azure. What is the data platform? So typically, the data platform is divided into three buckets. I'm just an umbrella kind of a notion. So the way we work, you know that Microsoft and Azure definitely believes that hybrid is the way forward. That means that data can be on premise, it can be on Azure, it can be on the cloud, but still we should be able to realize value from that data. So if you see the first topic, we're talking about data modernization on premise. The second bucket is data modernization to Azure. And the third and the most important thing is cloud scale analytics. So I will give you a small flavor of all the three buckets today. So the first bucket being data modernization on premise and on hybrid. So as I said, hybrid is the most important identity for Microsoft. So we have SQL 2019, which is available on on premise. But the beauty there is we understand that data is not only structured these days. You have a lot of big data, you have unstructured data. So what we've done is we've provided big data clustering along with SQL Server 2019 so that customers who would like to do analytics with big data are able to use our Microsoft suite of technologies. The other thing that we also propose is Azure Arc, which is our hybrid service. What this really means is, for example, if you want to run SQL managed instances, which is a flavor of SQL, which is available on the cloud in your on-premise, then we have something called as Azure Arc, with which you can just have the SQL MI, the same flavor which is on Azure available to you on-premise. So giving you the best of two worlds. And the third important thing is SQL DB Edge. We see that more and more use cases are going towards sensors, IoT data. So how can we use the SQL that most of you are familiar with to help you get those capabilities on those small edge devices? So that's where we have SQL DB Edge, which has most of the capabilities of a SQL server, but minimized to run on a Docker image. So this is what, at a very high level, when you think about data modernization on premise and hybrid, is what we bring on Azure. So, this is like an in detail slide on what are the benefits. But one thing that really stands out is that it is the most secure. These days, when you read the newspapers, you read a lot about data breach and, data security being an issue and so much of data leaked. So you can see that SQL 2019 itself has the least amount of security cases in the past few years. So this is something that we are very cognizant of and very detail oriented when it comes to security. So the next aspect is about data modernization to Azure. So many organizations that I work with, they come and tell me that, hey, I have a lot of OLTP data that is lying on premise. I need to scale that data. I have new use cases coming in. I want to have an HADR strategy, but I don't want to burn my pockets to get that strategy up. So what is possible? What's possible is modernizing your existing application farm to Azure using the data modernization route. So what's possible really? So if you have OLTP systems, so it could be SQL, it could be MySQL, it could be MariaDB, PostgreSQL. All this is available as a PaaS offering on Microsoft. So what does that really mean? Is that you don't have to think about administration. You don't have to think about, hey, how do I manage this? How do I do backup, HADR? All that is given to you by the platform. So you are only responsible for building that functionality or the business orientation that you bring, and everything else is taken care by the platform. Now when it comes to modernization, there are many flavors of SQL because we understand that different customers have different needs. For example, some customers may have end of support SQL Server and they want to immediately migrate to cloud because there's a lot of vulnerability there. For them, we have infrastructure as a service offering wherein we provide virtual machines with SQL Server installed. Now, this is not like just a VM with SQL Server. We also provide built-in security. We provide fully managed instances within that as well. So backup and everything is taken care by the cloud. The second thing that we have is SQL managed instances. Now, this is where we provide a lot more platform richness to SQL. So between IIS and the SQL MI or SQL DB, SQL MI is the one which gives you maximum benefit when you're coming in from an infrastructure world. Now, the third pillar that we have is OSSDB support. Now, we have managed instances with OSSDB wherein you can bring in any of your OSSDB. So it could be, as I said, MySQL, MariaDB, it could be community editions, and we support all of that. Now, what is the beauty over here is you bring in your community edition, we provide you enterprise grade security, backup, HA, and everything out of the box with really minimum costs. So that's what we have. And even if when you're thinking about this journey, you first want to do assessments, you want to say, hey, I have this on premise. What will work on the cloud? What will not work on the cloud? How can I really migrate this? Should I think about in-place migration? All that is possible with assessment tools that we have. Most of them are free of cost. You can run it. You get a complete portfolio which says, okay, 70% of your workloads can be migrated or 80% can be migrated, 20% may need changes and so on and so forth. So this is an entire package that we offer in terms of OLTP data processing, right? Now, this is something that I would like to call out, for MySQL, MariaDB, and PostgreSQL. As I said, you have fully managed community database support. What that means is, as an open source developer, if you're building an open source, a community edition MariaDB, that is, just supported on Azure. You don't have to do any code changes. We give you built-in high availability. That means that by default, you will have instances running all the time, and the lowest TCO. That means that you are really paying for what you use. You don't have servers always up and running, and you're not paying through your nose for that kind of servers always running. We also provide intelligence. What that means is we tell you which are the queries which are maybe not running as much as they're not as performant. We give you enterprise grade security and integration with the other the rest of the Azure ecosystem. So I think this is something that I already covered in terms of costs. We are much cheaper than what you would have on premise, and you have reserved capacities wherein if you stay longer on the platform and pledge for that earlier on, you get many discounts. So that's what we have in terms of OLTP databases. Now, moving on to the third topic, which is very important, and cloud scale analytics. I think Roy also touched upon it, that every organization wants to get data insights right now. Previously it was okay to get that visualization report or the model to work after one day, but that's not acceptable anymore. So before I even go into what's possible, I want to ask these questions to you guys. Do you have, as maybe CEOs or CTOs, do you have these questions in your mind always? Do you have a looking forward strategy where you want elasticity, you want to support newer data sources, you want to support structured data, you want to support unstructured data, you want to support big data, but the current maybe on premise or other cloud offerings that you have may not be able to suit your needs? Do you have new applications that you want to build? Maybe you're doing a lot of batch processing. Now you have installed sensors somewhere, you want to get that data in, and you want to use the same analytical engine to support that. Do you have such things that are on your roadmap or on your mind? Do you have concerns about capacity and cost? With COVID-19, lot many companies have become very cost conscious, right? So nobody wants to buy those big servers and keep them when they are not really using them, right? So do you want to think about cost when you're really using that capacity? Do you want to provide SLAs to your customer wherein you want to have the 99.99% uptime provided to the customer, or you want to ensure that you have 99.95% SLA that you want to provide to your customer? I'm sure many banking customers would definitely want that. The fourth most important thing is storage costs. Are you concerned about high storage costs and you want to use something that really doesn't burn a hole into your pocket? And the last and most important thing, do you want to start small and then expand as your customer base expands? Do you want to just experiment first, build that MVP and then see how it works and then use it for a real big POC or a customer project? I think these are the asks that I hear from many of my partners, from many of our customers, right? I hope any one of these resonates with you. And what is the solution that we have to answer these questions? We have Azure Analytics. Now, what is Azure Analytics? Is a combination of multiple services. These are again PaaS services. That means that you really don't have to think about administration and setting up a Spark cluster. No, you just have to spin off these instances, get your data in and pay for what you really use, right? So when you're thinking about analytics, the first thing that comes to anybody's mind is actually ingestion. So how do I get my data maybe which is on premise? How do I get my data which is in SAP? How do I get my data which is in Salesforce? Or how do I get my Excel sheets onto the cloud so that I can combine all of that and create value out of that data? So we have something called as the Azure Data Factory, which is a low code, no code data ingestion service that we have. It also plays many roles like orchestration, transformation, but this is your first step when you're thinking about analytics. Now, once you have the data, the best practice is to really store that data into a data lake. Now, you can have multiple types of data, structured, unstructured, and the beauty of this data lake storage is that it's really cheap and you really pay for what you use. So, per capacity, you pay and it's very cheap. So, a good practice is to get your raw data in and make it stay there, because many a times when you're doing data science you don't know how you will use that data. So this is the most crucial step. The next thing is you want to prepare your data. That is, okay, I have say 100 CSVs that I have, but there are duplicates in that, or there is, the first name is wrong everywhere. How can I transform all of that data? So we have multiple services. I'm just showing you something which is very common, but we have multiple services like Databricks, which is a managed Spark instance, which you can just spin up and do your transformations. And the last but not the least is Synapse Analytics. This is your data warehouse. This is your serving layer. This is where you create your data marts, which can be used by a visualization layer, which can be used by, say, your machine learning and things like that. So this is referenced to in the Azure world as a modern data warehouse architecture. And believe me, for you to start analytics, it just is about setting up these services and getting your data through these services. It's as simple as that. And these are all very scalable. So you start at the lowest layer. Many of them have a free tier, so you can experiment. And then as you grow, as your data grows, you can move on to more, heavier tiers if the need arises. So this is what we have now. When we heard our customers feedback, they say that, hey, modern data warehouse architectures are great, but we want a single service that can handle all of this. We don't want to spin up multiple services, stitch them up together. So just last year we announced Azure Synapse Analytics, which is our hero service, which is the one-stop shop that you need to in order to do analytics on Azure, making life very simple for data engineers, for business analysts, for ML engineers, for data stewards, for all of them put together, one platform to get you going with analytics. Now, let me talk you through this a little. It's really built on the previous slide. So there is the modern data warehouse architecture. As you can see that the backbone is still data lake. That means it's cheap storage. On top of that, we understand today that in organization, it's just not about SQL and no SQL. There's a lot of Spark that data engineers want to use. They want to do ad hoc querying. They want to do, specific queries that they want to do on a server that is always running. So we have different analytical runtimes that we support. On top of that, again, we have the ingestion services, management, monitoring, security, and a Synapse Studio experience that gives that unified experience. So it's about just logging onto the Synapse Studio, having all these there, and clicking some buttons. Most of these are low code options, and you get started, right? And you can use this to serve Power BI, machine learning, or even Databricks sometimes. So this is our single stop shop that is available for analytics. Now, this is some data that Forrester has built that we saw that customers who were able to embrace Azure Synapse Analytics saw an average ROI increase of 271%, and the customer satisfaction went up to 60%, right? And the faster times to insight was 27%. Now, all this is possible because we've tried to understand the challenges that a data engineer may face, an ML engineer may face, and we've tried to make things very simple and, a single source of truth for all these personas. Um, So moving on, I'm sure you've heard of the great features. You would now want to know, hey, is it really expensive when you're giving me so much? Are you going to price it very high? Well, this is a comparison chart that we have. This is a TPCH benchmark that we got done. And you can see the price per performance when compared to an AWS Amazon Redshift or a Snowflake or a BigQuery. So you can see that we are really maybe one ninth or 1/10 the cost when it comes to the big boys like BigQuery. So this is what we charge in terms of what does it mean in terms of cost to use Azure Synapse Analytics, right? So in terms of benefits, when you're coming in from an on-premise world, how does this Azure Synapse Analytics help? First thing is Microsoft Azure has a footprint really globally across the region, right? And just recently we announced a data center coming in Malaysia and Indonesia. So there's a lot of investments that are going in, and we see that these are our new areas, new markets, and that's where we want to invest. And it's extremely secure, it's scalable, and it's enterprise grade. So when I say enterprise grade, what does it really mean is that security is built in, and everything just works. The second thing is, when you're thinking about an on-premise analytics workload, you're thinking about, hey, I need to purchase this hardware, which I will be using around 5 years time. I need to buy the biggest machine out there, because in 5 years, I know that my volumes will increase so much. So, all this is not required. You really have to spin up a cluster. You don't want to use the data warehouse analytics. You can pause the cluster and you will not be charged. It's as simple as that, right? And you have flexibility to pause, and we are also providing a lot of uh, solution accelerators that you can use as part of data warehouse, right? The most important thing is you can scale your compute and storage independently. What that really means is, for example, you've ingested 100 petabyte scale file. Now you may not want to process all of that, but if your compute and storage is coupled, generally that's the way in on-premise systems, then you will not be able to, your compute should be able to handle that kind of 10 petabytes of data from day one. Whereas in Azure, the storage and compute is independent. So even if you have 10 petabytes of data in the compute layer, in the storage layer, your compute need not always be running. You can stop it, you can process how much ever you want, you can start it. Your data remains safe and you're just processing when you need it. The next most important is high availability DR. So how do you ensure that you're always available for your customers? This is something that is inbuilt. You really don't have to do anything external or additional to get these kind of benefits. We also do automatic hardware and software updates. Literally, you don't know of them, and even if we tell you, you can choose a time slot when you want that to be done, right? So uh, these are the benefits, and thinking about getting different types of data, all this is possible. So that really means that your go-to market time is really fast. So you can really use Synapse Analytics and within 1 week build that analytics or create that analytics out of the data that you have. So in terms of next steps, I would urge you guys to think about where is it that you want to go in your roadmap. Identify use cases that you want to do and try Azure Synapse Analytics or the Azure Data Platform to help you accelerate your journey. Right? So summarizing what I spoke about some benefits of the cloud. I covered what are the three, broader topics on the Azure Data Platform. So I'm restricted myself to fewer services. There are a plethora of services, but I didn't want to talk about everything. You can go to the Microsoft documentation and read up. These are some links that I've provided. This talks about what are the features in a data platform that is available. These are some cloud data warehouse comparisons. And how do you get started? There are some technical resources. So if there are any data engineers on the call, this could be something that would be helpful. So with that, I would like to thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat window or contact us later. With this, I hand it over to Chaya to show us this demo, which will talk through the end-to-end Synapse Analytics workflow. Over to you, Chaya.
Hey, thank you, Poonam. Hello everyone, my name is Chaya and I work as a pre-sales consultant. I look after basically Azure Cloud in terms of data platform, and I also look after Cloud Era. So let me take you through a quick demo of Synapse Analytics. How it looks, the features Poonam just briefed you about, I will just quickly show you how it actually looks when when you want to go ahead and do a practice or an implementation. All right. So let me just turn off my video for the demo. I share my screen quickly. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we just spoke about how how vast is Azure data platform is, but today we will see a quick demo around Synapse and how it can help customers with their analytics journey to show a demo on this, I would like to consider a scenario. Suppose there is a customer who wants to build an end-to-end data analytics pipeline, which may involve, sourcing data from multiple sources, storing that data, processing that data, doing any kind of enrichments, transformations, performing ML algorithms, and finally modeling and serving with help of any visualization tool. To do this, typically a customer would need teams of people who would include your data engineers, your ML engineers, your data analyst, your BI specialist, right? So let's see how one platform, which is Synapse, can help all these teams to work on a single integrated platform. Okay. So as I said, so in a typical data analytics pipeline, you would first start with ingestion of the data. Then you need to explore, analyze, enrich, transform the data, do any kind of machine learning, and finally make it available for visualization. Okay. So the screen which you are looking at is called as Azure Synapse Analytics Web Studio. It's nothing but a UI that gives you a centralized access to all the capabilities of your Synapse. We will go through each capability briefly with an example. Let me start with the data tab. So basically this is a place where you can find all your databases, data sets that you have created as part of your data analytics pipeline which you are building. So it may be a dedicated SQL pool, serverless SQL, or a Spark database. We will talk about each of these runtime engines or processing engines shortly. So the very first step in any analytics pipeline is to get the data. Synapse comes with a numerous number of your connectors, starting with your structured, unstructured, or semi-structured data sources. So if I have to take you through, so let it be within Azure data sources, is it a blob storage, or you have Cosmos DB, or you have MySQL, Postgres, or you have any SQL databases, whether it is a managed or a PaaS, or you have any other type of databases like Amazon Redshift, or you have Cloudera Impala, you have IBM DB2 or Hive or Microsoft Access or Postgres, any kind of other file sources, Amazon S3, or you have FTP, or you have HDFS. There are some generic protocols also available, and it also has a support for NoSQL. So as said, Synapse does come with a variety of connectors to connect any kind of data source, ranging from structured to unstructured to semi-structured. For the purpose of demo, I have connected to Azure Data Lake Storage. I have loaded a sample data set, and I'll show you how you can go about processing this data. Next is develop. This is basically a place where you can do, you can keep, or you can find all your code artifacts. So as a first step, we have ingested the data now from Azure Data Lake. As a next step, what you can do is, if a customer has a requirement, I want to analyze data in my data lake, but I do not want to have a dedicated capacity as of now. I only want to run ad hoc queries. I want to do a data exploration. And when I am sure, then I want to assign a dedicated capacity to my workload. So as Poonam mentioned earlier, Synapse has multiple runtime. One of that runtime is called as serverless SQL. So serverless SQL gives customer a flexibility or a feature of running a query on top of your data lake without having to spin a dedicated resource. You are basically charged for amount of data that query is processing. So serverless SQL is truly a pay-as-you-go model. So in Studio, it is actually referred as built-in. So this is a simple query where you are only selecting top 100 rows from your data lake, and running in serverless SQL. Here I have not assigned any capacity to run this SQL. Okay. I mean the dedicated capacity. All right. So the next processing engine is your dedicated. So customer might also have a production workload which requires a dedicated capacity. For that, Synapse has another processing engine that is called as dedicated. All right. So here you actually pay for the capacity that is being utilized. Maybe 100 data warehousing units or 400 data warehousing units. So even if you don't run the workload, until and unless this capacity is reserved, you are paying for that. Unlike serverless, where you only pay for the query runtime or amount of data that is being processed by that query. Okay. So I'll change my engine to dedicated from serverless, and I'll just run a very simple query. So you may have team of data analysts or data engineers who just want to do ad hoc analysis. They can use serverless, or you have workloads where a dedicated capacity is needed. You can go ahead and utilize your dedicated SQL pool, or you might also have a group of people who wants to do ML, machine learning on top of your data. For that, Synapse also supports Spark notebooks, where the ML engineer can come in and code in any of the language that he or she is familiar with. Suppose Python, Scala, .NET, or Spark SQL. If you see that I have to attach a Spark cluster here, then add in some code and just run it. It's that simple actually. So what it is doing here is it is actually spinning a Spark cluster behind the scene. And once that cluster is ready, this particular code snippet will get run and you will have your output. All right. Later I'll show you how the cluster looks like. Okay. Finally, you have ingested the data, you have explored your data, and you have also built an ML on top of it. Next, you would also like to solve that data via any visualization tool. So Synapse also comes with an integration with Power BI. So the sample data we have loaded, I have also created an integration with Power BI and created a sample report just to show how easy and quick it is to do end-to-end pipeline within Synapse. Okay. Let me close few tabs. Next is your integrate the pipelines basically. So just give it a while. Okay. So we talked about creating an end-to-end pipeline. We talked about enriching a data set, your input data set. We talked about transforming your input data set. How can you do that? This is a place you can do that. So here I have just added a simple Spark notebook. I have added a trigger. I have scheduled it to run at a specific time, date and time, which I want to, but the flow could be much more complex. You can utilize on other activities like copy data, which is basically for sourcing the data. You can have your Spark notebooks running on that data, or you can do other machine learning. So Synapse also connects well with Azure machine learning. So basically you can design a pipeline where you do the transformation, enrichment of your input data. You can also schedule or orchestrate that particular pipeline to run according to your requirement. Okay. The next is monitoring. So Synapse does come with a centralized monitoring and management of all these systems or features that we spoke. So this is a place where you can monitor your pipeline. So I just talked about you can schedule your pipeline and run at a particular time. So this morning I just tested. So you can see that pipeline has run at particular time frame. You can also monitor your triggers. It could be a schedule trigger, a tumbling window, or any other type of trigger that is supported by Synapse. You can monitor your Spark applications. If suppose there is a failure, why it is getting failed, what is the error, all those debugging, you can come here and do that. Your SQL request, whether you have run a built on built-in, which is serverless, or you have run on a dedicated SQL pool, you can come here and do a debugging, or you can just check what kind of queries are you running. All those details about your request basically. Okay. You can also monitor status of your SQL pool, your built-in, whether they are online or they are not, or for some reason they are not working. Finally, we have managed. This is a place where you can create your SQL pool, your Spark pool, and also your link services. So let's start with SQL pool. So here for example, I have created one pool. You can go ahead and have more SQL pools. This is nothing but a dedicated capacity. So you can start from 100 data warehouse units and go up to 30,000 data warehouse units. So basically you can start small and scale as and when required. It's just not, scaling out. You can also decrease the capacity as and when needed. Okay, same goes for your Spark pool. So for the purpose of demo, I have considered a very small configuration, which is nothing but a 4-core 32 GB of 3 nodes. You can have a different sizes here. If you see, you have t-shirt size available, small to double XL. Depending on requirement, this can be changed, and it can also be auto scaled. If you see it is enabled, you can decide on minimum and maximum number of nodes when you are enabling and auto scaling. Link services are nothing but connection to your external data sources. So as I mentioned, I have created a connection to Azure Data Lake for ingesting the data. I have also created a connection to Microsoft Power BI for visualizing that particular data. Similar to this, you can have connection to other data sources, which I mentioned earlier. Any structured, unstructured, or semi-structured type of data can be ingested in your Synapse Analytics platform. Then you have your triggers and rest of the stuff here. Okay, all right. So as a platform, Synapse is elastic. We saw you can scale in or scale out as and when needed, but you can also go ahead and pause it. So the dedicated capacity we are talking about 100 DW, even if you are not running a workload, you would be charged for this capacity until and unless you go ahead and pause it. So this, contributes to a very cost saving. The same can also be done for your Spark pools. This we already saw. You can scale as and when needed. You can also specify number of minutes your particular Spark cluster is idle. So after that time has elapsed, your cluster will go into sleep and you will have a significant cost saving here as well. So that's how flexible and easy your Synapse Analytics platform is. Lastly, Synapse Analytics has a deep integration with other services complementing Azure services like your Data Lake, like your Databricks, like your Azure ML. It also comes with a comprehensive set of security services like column level, row level encryption, data masking, and it also integrates with other security services of Microsoft Azure. Okay. So that's it from my side. If you have any queries, please feel free to drop in the chat box and we will address that. So I pass it to Sean now. Sean, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Chaya. Hi, everybody. This is your MC, Sean again. I hope you all enjoyed the afternoon session where we are sharing, beginning from Speaker Roy, who introduced ICON, and then followed by Poonam, who gave a keynote on what Azure Platform does. And then just a moment ago, last but not least, we saw Chatya demonstrated the solution. And now we'd like to open it up for Q&A, question and answer session. Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself and then let us have some question, and we will we will answer to you accordingly. So questions from anybody?
We have another question here. How Synapse scores over Redshift and Informatica Cloud?
So let me take that question. Mohit, this is Poonam here. So Synapse, when you consider Synapse is in total end-to-end, analytics engine. You saw Chaya demonstrate to you. It is about connecting to different sources, about processing, about doing machine learning. It's an end-to-end analytics pipeline. But when you think about Redshift, it's just like a data warehouse which you have as a single service. But this is totally integrated. We also have it integrated with Purview, which is our governance engine. So think of it as an end-to-end, analytics one-stop shop. That's what I would look at it. And Informatica Cloud, again, not comparing apples to apples here, but as I said, this is, realizing value is faster when it comes to Azure, and the enterprise-grade security and, the kind of ease of use, connectors. There are many other things that are going to be coming up, like how can you, so for example, we didn't detail out that you can also convert your OLTP data into OLAP with a click of a button. So for example, if you have data in Cosmos DB, which is in the OLTP format, with a click of a button you can convert it into a columnar format. So all these new things coming in, I think that's why it's more like an end-to-end platform. That's what I would say. Does that help, Mohit?
Thank you, Poonam. Any more questions?
Is there
Sean, there's another question. Can data modeling be handled at Azure Synapse?
Yeah, Tarun, I think that's a very good question. So, yes, that is something that you should hear from Microsoft soon. So, we are coming up with pre-packaged modeling. This is more around the the data warehouse modeling per se. So, that's going to be a very industry-specific models. Watch out, you will hear something soon. Yeah. I shared another one. How do we differentiate Azure from Snowflake? Okay, so again, I would, the way I look at Snowflake and the way I look at Synapse, as I said, Synapse has this end-to-end integration and end-to-end analytics, and Snowflake again is, has this data warehousing capabilities only. They are coming up with more and more connectors, but we are more matured in this space, and we are also adding a lot of these industry flavors that you will hear of very soon within Synapse. So I think that's a very big differentiator from what's available with Snowflake. And data exchange, we have something called as the Azure Data Exchange service, and you could use that data share. That's what it's called. You can use data share, and that would be our go-to tool for exchanging data. Yep.
Thank you, Poonam. It's good to see the questions coming forward. Yeah, any one of yourself, if you still have any question, please feel free. I think we still have a little bit of time on hand. Is there any more questions coming?
Yes, there is. So
Okay. Good.
it's a follow-up from Love about the Azure from differentiation from Azure from Snowflake. So can we share data across geographies easily?
Okay, so the way I would take that is, Love. So when you're having an architecture, so I said that Synapse Analytics, the beauty of that is the storage and the compute is not joined together in the hip, right? So now think that you have, the storage layer, the data lake is what stores the data. So for example, if you want to share the data or copy over the data, then that's possible. We have tools. And also, if you're coming in from a backup DR perspective, I think that's where you're coming in from. It would be more like, you could have geo replication that is set up and that will help you. So yes, that can be done, and that's at the storage level. I also see another question about extracting SAP reports into data lake. We don't want to rebuild logic. Yeah, so that's a good question again. So with SAP data as well, in fact, today I've been speaking to many folks around getting the SAP data in. So there are multiple ways in which you can do it. So first is Data Factory. I think one of you asked that question. You could, extract that data out. The other thing that is also available is Power BI. You can connect there are certain connectors that are available that connects to directly to SAP. Now, not all of SAP, there is certain components that like the BW that you can connect to. And if you already have that logic, that can be exposed as the Power BI report. Yeah, now it really depends, on the detailing. We need to understand what is it in SAP that you want to get in. But these are the two approaches that I see folks doing. Either use Azure Data Factory, get into Data Lake and do processing, or with Power BI also there are connectors available to directly talk to SAP some components. Yep.
Yep. Once again, thank you very much for all the questions. I think we can probably take a question or two more if there is. Is there any other questions that any one of you might have? Please feel free to, air your questions to us.
I see another question, Tarun. It's about capping of data in terms of Synapse Analytics. So, I think it's around some petabytes, something. I don't remember the number of my head, but really you can even run, you can work around those. That's not a limitation as I see. You can have multiple subscriptions and, we can always, if you have any number in mind, I can help you with that. But it's really about the storage layer. So that's literally infinite. Yeah. But if you think there is any hard cap that you're seeing, then you can connect with me offline and we can see how I can help you overcome that.
Thank you for the sharing. Okay, once again, is there any more questions from anyone of yourself?
I think we are good. If you have any questions, you can write it down at the feedback form, and we will reach out to you separately via email or phone call.
Okay. Okay, now we'll move on to the, just before we close the session off, we would like to you to use a moment of your time to provide us some feedback. You could either just scan this QR code on the screen and get a link to the feedback form. Otherwise, if not, I believe the
I
link.
will type it in the chat box.
Is also typed in the chat box. Yeah, that you can just click to reach the feedback form. Perhaps I'll just give a little bit of time, just probably a minute, that you can have some time to do this feedback form before we close out this wonderful session today. It's just about 30 seconds more, perhaps, please do give us by scanning the QR code or accessing the link via the chat box to give us your feedback so that we can improve ourselves. Okay, just a little while more. Okay, I guess that's it for